Hello, Farha, and
Hi.
welcome to How the Light Gets In.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. You are an influencer, a YouTuber, a TikToker, an OnlyFans model. What led you to make the choice to use your image, I guess, or share so much of yourself as a life path?
I've always wanted to do content creation since I was little. I was always very chronically online. I was super into watching comedy YouTubers and stuff and just had a lot of creative energy. So my first attempt at social media was doing like comedy and skits and stuff on TikTok. And then I kind of just would get distracted over and over by new shiny content ideas. So I did like a red pilled podcast maybe like 2 years ago. I went on this show called Fresh and Fit, in which they're pretty much talking about how like women shouldn't have the right to vote, or Instagram accounts. And I found that type of content so addictive and fun to do that I just wasted a year kind of just hopping around from podcast to podcast, arguing with red pillars and stuff. So yeah, my initial reason for getting into social media was just having like a lot of creative energy. And then my reason for getting into like the red pill and OnlyFans stuff was kind of just as an experiment to see what it was like. And I love the smoke from doing OnlyFans. Like I love how much it pisses people off. Like that's kind of at this point like 50% of the reason I do it, on top of course like the money. And I think everyone has like a morbid curiosity to know, not morbid, but like self-aggrandizing curiosity to know like how much could they make off OnlyFans. So that's definitely part of it. But then at this point I also like how stigmatized it is and then getting to defend it.
Do people often get annoyed by your OnlyFans?
I think it angers people. I think OnlyFans girls are a really good scapegoat for a lot of people's economic frustrations. Like if you're a guy who's unable to like move out of your parents' basement because, you know, you went in for a college degree and now you're struggling in the job market, it's very easy to look at the girl who's 21 and just bought a house and think like, you know, this isn't fair and stuff. So I think there's a lot of financial envy that gets like packaged as moral concern.
Do you get judged for or accused of sexualizing yourself and just kind of selling your body?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when I first started OnlyFans and people would say things to me like, you know, you're selling your body, like all these things. At first I was like, no, I'm not. Like I would use all these like debate tactics and be like, you know, if someone sells photos of a Lamborghini, are they selling a Lamborghini? No, like that's not what it means to sell your body. But at this point, like now if I introduce myself, I'm kind of just like so desensitized. Like I'll just introduce myself and be like, hi, I'm Farha, I'm an e-prostitute. Even though I don't even have sex on OnlyFans, like I just am so like desensitized to all the moral judgments that come with OnlyFans, and I kind of just wear them loud and proud now.
Respect. Do you know Bonnie Blue? Have you heard of her?
I don't know her personally, but yeah.
Yeah. She's another OnlyFans model who came to fame because she broke the record of how many people she could have sex with in a day, or penetrative sex.
Yeah. I think what is it, like 1,000? I know her and Lily Phillips, one of them did 1,000, but yeah.
Yeah, she hit 1,000. And Andrew Tate said that she was feminism's logical conclusion or something.
Yeah, I think that's so funny because up until OnlyFans started, men and anti-feminists were the ones who always claimed porn and sex work. Like literally, Hugh Hefner had an internal memo leaked that said feminists are a natural enemy. We need to take them apart. We need to destroy them because they considered Playboy and just porn in general to be so anti-feminist and so objectifying and just setting women back so much. And even like, I don't know, when I was like 10 years old, I went to my older brother's dorm room and his roommate had this poster above his bed. I don't know if you've seen this meme. It's like this homely looking feminist protesting outside of Hooters, and she's holding a sign that says women are not decoration. And then next to her is this group of like hot Hooters girls holding their own sign that says like some. And the insult is pretty much supposed to be like, you're not hot enough to be decoration. And this was hanging in the college boys' dorm room. And it was like a viral meme on like Chucklebuzz and all these college humor sites. So it's like up until OnlyFans, you were considered a loser, ugly, jealous feminist if you protested a woman in sex work. And I do consider Hooters to be sex work, honestly. You were considered ugly if you protested Miss America pageants for like setting women back. You were considered a loser and insecure if you said, hey, I don't want my husband or boyfriend like going to strip clubs or watching porn. you know, you go on forums and they would just say like, you're insecure, you're jealous, you need to get over it. Like, what do you have, low self-esteem or something? You're emotionally abusive. So up until like 2021, when suddenly this just like string of OnlyFans girls started buying houses and bragging about like dating rappers and stuff, not only have I never heard a guy criticize sex work, I've seen them actually like very viciously bash any woman or feminist who ever criticized them for engaging in sex work. So Bonnie Blue's not the result of feminism. She's the result of like literally a porn industry. Everything she embodies, I think she's like, I don't know if she's intentionally a performance artist. I see her as one because she perfectly embodies men's like pornographic desires, like her saying like, you know, I'll take anyone, 18, 80, if you're married, all these things. And people are like, oh my God, this is eroding the social fabric. I'm like, no, she literally is just a performance artist of the top categories on porn, which is like wife's at work, like you can fuck her best friend, or like this woman drains you after you're stressed. So it's like, I don't know how anyone can see her as a consequence of feminism when she verbatim is just pretty much like speaking the sorts of porn categories that feminists have long protested. They were the ones who would do protests outside of like Pornhub pop-up shops in New York City. They were the ones who corralled like 2 million signatures to get porn removed when it was found that this site was like littered in sex trafficking and child trafficking, and men were the ones who didn't care. Like we didn't see any male-led anti-porn collectives bubbling up after like the New York Times dropped that expose called like The Children of Pornhub in 2020, which detailed that so many kids were being like kidnapped, raped, and drugged on Pornhub, and the site did nothing about it. So I just find it rich that guys now suddenly want to pretend that they were the ones who were anti-porn this whole time, and that Bonnie Blue is like just the final result, or just like the core of feminism, when by no stretch of the imagination could she be considered that.
Are you a feminist?
100%, yeah.
Okay, what does that mean to you in 2025?
I mean, yeah, like the basic definition is obviously that you advocate for equality of the sexes. For me, being a feminist pretty much means looking out for the differences in male and female psychology. So for instance, like women are more agreeable than men. They're more likely to be nice. They're more likely to go along with things than men are. Whether that's the product of nature or nurture isn't super interesting to me, but what's interesting to me is just the fact that they are. So for instance, when you look at things like hookup culture and women just going along with whatever sexual trends there are and stuff, for me, being a feminist kind of just tells women like, hey, you don't have to just go along with this thing, you know, just because that's the trend.
What do you think is the most frustrating double standard in your opinion?
Probably, I mean, this one's just on my mind because of like the topics of this debate. Probably the idea that like it's eroding the social fabric of this country because 1 in 8 women are on OnlyFans, and now suddenly people are talking about like feminism's gone too far. But we didn't see it as an erosion of the social fabric when the fact that 80% of men watch porn, the fact that 60% of men have been to a strip club, the fact that it's literally a rite of passage for married men to go get a lap dance a few days before they're married, the fact that 20% of American men have purchased sex from a prostitute. Meanwhile, the average age that the girl enters straight prostitution is literally 12. Like, we never saw it as like an erosion or transgression of the social fabric for men to literally be routinely fucking minors, basically, under the guise of just like Vegas boys trip. But now suddenly that like you have women like Bonnie Blue and all these girls who are just visibly happy and buying houses. Now suddenly people are just like, wow, like this is the fall of the West, degeneracy, feminism's gone too far. So that's probably not the most important double standard, but that's the one most present on my mind right now. But yeah.
Do you believe in male fragility? Is that real?
Wait, what?
Do you think male fragility
Oh, sorry, this is male fertility. I was like, what? In what sense?
Do you believe that men are more fragile? Is that a psychological difference?
Oh, I think they're way, way, way more sensitive. Like, I mean, even just hearing, I don't know what you guys' opinions are on like the male loneliness epidemic. I think it's like such bullshit, but it's such a huge talking point in the States. And they talk about how the late Charlie Kirk went on a podcast last month on Tucker Carlson, and he was talking about how men have checked out from society because they've been so battered down from like pronoun policing and the HR department and being told they're toxic. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, you're blaming the fact that men have like almost wholesale retreated from society on the fact that people now introduce their pronouns when they go to college. Like, to me, that's like such a glaring example of male fragility. I'm like, okay, these are the people who literally say that things like, what's it called? Like affirmative action, any types of protections or anti-racism efforts is infantilizing, coddling Black people and is too much of a correction. But they speak about Black people so horribly on the right, but then they use this, like, they're so fragile about masculinity that they will say, you know, like, for years feminists have said men mansplain, they manspread, all these things, and now they've just like quit from society. I'm like, okay, if we applied that logic to Black people and women, like, we should be retreating from society. We should be never like moving out of our parents' basement or anything. So I don't know if that's what you meant by male fragility.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Do you think that speaking in categories like men, women, is that a problem with queer culture, and are we essentializing sex too much?
I personally don't think so. This might be controversial, but I think that in order to be a feminist, like, you do have to believe that there's men and there's women. And I think there are differences between men and women. And I find it really frustrating when a lot of feminists will talk about, you know, maybe we would be doing these types of industries. Maybe we would be doing these types of jobs. Maybe we would be exactly like men in this way, if not for social pressure. And I'm like, to be a true feminist is to say that women are and men could be different and are very different, and there's nothing wrong, and it's not a deficiency for women to be different and have different interests and personality traits.
Do you think the situation of men and women has changed in your generation, Gen Z?
Yeah, for sure. Like, men on the right are becoming so radicalized by like the manosphere and the alt-right and stuff. Like, I saw a stat that was talking about how like Gen Z women are more likely to date older men because they're actually more liberal than Gen Z men at this point, or at least in the sense of they're not as brain rotted. They're not as likely to be so vocal about just saying insane things about women, saying they shouldn't vote, saying that like men and women are this way, because they weren't as captured by like red pill talking points as much. So I do think it's getting worse for sure.
Yeah, it's a bit scary. It's like feminism finally achieves something in certain countries, and then immediately there's this reaction from the males.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because, yeah, they do have a lot of voting power. Like, I do think a big reason that Trump was elected in the States is largely because of like the manosphere. Like, he even said that a big reason he won is because he went on all these podcasts that have like a huge male audience and stuff. So I would have said that like at least it's not going anywhere. Like, these people aren't capable of affecting change, but clearly they can.
Do you think in general that Gen Z is, what is like the most misunderstood thing about Gen Z in your opinion?
I don't know about misunderstood. I think everything I see about Gen Z, I'm like, that checks out. They're like, Gen Z isn't fucking. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a 26-year-old virgin. They're like, Gen Z can't drive. I'm like, I don't even have a permit. They're like, Gen Z is autistic, no social skill. Like, I haven't heard anything where I'm like, that's offensive. Like, they're painting us wrong. I think I'm like, I like represent so much of Gen Z because I'm like on OnlyFans, don't have sex, can't drive, no social skills, just like they say Gen Z doesn't really drink anymore. Like, I pretty much don't drink anymore. I don't know. I think a lot of the indictments about Gen Z are correct, for sure.
Do you defend your generation?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the women, I really understand them and resonate with them. Like, I think a big reason that there's a sex recession and dating recession is because the women are disillusioned with hookup culture. They are disillusioned with like a lot of the men in our generation. So I kind of really resonate with them versus with like the millennial generation. They were more into like hookup culture and like just a different mode of feminism. So I do feel like very connected to my fellow Generation Z people for sure.
You have recently been, because you were mentioning how you're a virgin, you were recently on a reality TV show, right? Is it called Is This Your First?
Yeah, they were gonna call it Virgin Island, but then 2 Virgin Islands came out like right after we filmed, so they changed it to Are You My First, which is a horrible name.
Right, but Are You My First? And it's basically a bunch of attractive virgins on an island.
Attractive is generous, but yeah, it was. Yeah, we filmed it in Costa Rica last year. It was a bunch of Mormons. I think half the cast was Mormon and the rest were Christian. And I think like I was one of 2 secular people, which was interesting. Wow. Yeah, I didn't go on with the intention of dating at all. You know, I was kind of just like, oh, this would be like a fun thing to do. Yeah, my first date with a Mormon boy, he rejected me for my porn career, but
good riddance. I was wondering what you thought of the category of virgin, because it does feel very fetishized, if you know what I mean, especially, and it's very heteronormative. Like, what does it mean to be a virgin? It means not having had penetrative sex normally. And yeah, it's put on this pedestal, especially by the Christian male right, I feel.
I agree. Like, for the longest time, I actually didn't really call myself a virgin because I have had oral sex, and in my head, like, what's the technical difference? Because, you know, if you're a lesbian, that's all you're gonna do, right? It's like, what's the difference? But I think as I told people, they'd just be like, oh, so you're a virgin. I'm like, well, no, because I've done this. They're like, if you haven't had penetrative sex, you're a virgin. It's not a label that I feel in my heart, but especially when I started doing debates, it became such a superpower because they talk about how, like, no women are virgins these days, all these things. So it became like this great thing that I could use in debates to kind of just also break people's brains about the idea of, like, you can be a virgin and also on OnlyFans. Because I think usually when people think virgin, they think you're doing it for religious reasons, you're doing it for purity, or you're anti-feminist. So I've liked that I've been able to kind of carve out this niche of being like, you as a woman can still wait, because I saw the stat that it's like 45% of women regret when they lost their virginity, right?
Wow.
So I'm trying to carve out this niche of like secular virginity, where it's like you can still wait without being religious. But usually when we think waiting and celibacy and abstinence, you think religion, you think you're waiting for marriage, you're waiting because God's telling you to. But given like the stats on like female sexual regret and sexual coercion, I'm like, okay, well, maybe we need like a more secular carve out of like waiting as well.
I like that. I also wanted to ask you, do you think your platforms are a good place to do politics from?
In what sense?
To promote certain political ideas or give information around parties, or I saw you did a TikTok about ICE helping people who maybe were going to be detained.
Yes. I think it's definitely a bit of an echo chamber. Like, it's hard to change someone's opinion probably in a TikTok, and the way to change someone's opinion is more to come off smart than even necessarily be smart. Like, even if you say something wrong but you come off like you're dunking on someone, that will sway someone more than like having the right facts but not being like the best rhetorical speaker and stuff. So I think in that way, TikTok in short form isn't good for teaching people actual information, but it could be good if it's weaponized by the right people or like the right side, and just kind of like making certain opinions more cool, because I feel like that type of like genre of dunks was co-opted for a long time, but like Andrew Tate and like the manosphere types of people. So I try to do that on the reverse, like dunk on the guys and kind of just copy like the editing style that like Andrew Tate pretty much farmed for a couple of years.
Yeah, what's an opinion you'd like to make mainstream through your channel?
I think, yeah, like the virginity thing is definitely something that I think should be more mainstream. I think that I write on Substack a bit more. Obviously, it's harder to get the same reach writing an essay than putting out short form, but like that is something that I am trying to like push, again, not from like a purity sense or like the sense of like your soul or degeneracy, but just for the sense of like for personal well-being and personal happiness, is you don't have to just, even if you don't believe in God, just go with the flow and just have sex with people and stuff.
Yeah, that's nice. I remember I read that last year you were approached by or maybe a couple years ago, by the Biden campaign to do what you called like political propaganda for them.
Yeah, I speak so like, it's so funny because I went on this podcast with my friend, and he was like asking me, he's like, so like, did you start doing OnlyFans first for money? And I was just trying to brag about the fact that like I didn't need OnlyFans for money. Like, I was already making money doing like ads and stuff, but that was right before the election, and like the right just had a field day with it because I just speak also naturally, kind of ironically. So I was like, yeah, like I was doing full-on political propaganda, and then like it just got clipped by like Fox News and all these like right-wing stations. They were like, OnlyFans model admits to political propaganda, and I'm like, is it not obvious I'm being like cheeky in this clip, whatever? But yeah, I was just saying that like I was doing ads for Biden when I first started TikTok and stuff, which is pretty common. Like a lot of social media creators like join political campaigns.
Yeah, you've said that several times, that like you're on OnlyFans 50% for the haters, and you say things ironically. Do you think a lot of online presence is quite ironic and not, I don't know, it's quite removed, if you know what I mean, or detached.
I think a lot of it has become a form of like self-worship. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Jubilee at all, like the channel where they'll have like 1 versus 30, whatever. So they had this one girl on named Sarah Stock, who I fucking hate. She's like this blonde, alt-right girl who was pushing traditionalism, being anti-divorce, saying that women shouldn't vote. She's clearly like just a grifter. Like, she knows that being like a blonde girl, she's not even smart, she can't even speak, but like she knows just being blonde is enough to get accepted by that like trad audience, whatever. Ever since she went viral from that platform, now every single time Jubilee has a debate, you have someone like that coming on and they're just saying the same exact talking points because they know they'll go get famous for it. Do I think they actually think it? Like, if you put them on a polygraph, no. Is it ironic? No, but it's also not sincere. Like, they're doing it just because they know they'll go viral and they'll be accepted for it, you know? So I think that's an unfortunate consequence, but yeah.
Do you try to escape the self-worship, or do you just embrace it?
I feel like my social media, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but like I feel like it's more driven by like messaging. Like, even when I do OnlyFans, like I don't necessarily feel like I'm being like playing myself, and I don't think you'll get very far in social media doing self-worship unless you're someone who's just naturally extremely unique and interesting and stuff. That usually there needs to be some branding around it, and I think because I do have a very particular branding, I don't internalize it and think like, wow, I'm so hot, I'm so funny, I'm so smart, because it's like, no, there's a lot of thought that goes into all these opinions, all these things, you know. But yeah.
Is there something in your childhood that made you want to turn to feminism specifically, or something in your past, a moment that
I think I've always been extremely feminist, yeah, because I grew up in a Muslim household and I have 2 older brothers, and my parents were just so strict towards me. And I think just being constantly frustrated and feeling like I had no just like bodily autonomy or just rights over my like time, my fashion. Like, my mom, if I even went thrifting and purchased clothing, she would just go through my bag and take everything. Like, I had this one shirt I got, it's like a button-down shirt, and my mom only knows about Western culture through like Lifetime movies. And you know how in like movies, after there's a sex scene, girls will wear like the guy's button-down shirt or whatever. So my mom, in her like delusional immigrant brain, thought that I bought a button-down shirt because she didn't understand that those girls are borrowing the guy's shirt. So she thought, oh, this is what girls wear after they have sex. So my mom took my button-down shirt because she's like, I know what you're gonna do with this. Like, I've seen this. And I was like, what? So like, even something as modest as like a button-down shirt, yeah, it's kind of hilarious. I just didn't have any bodily autonomy and like any sense of it. So I think that definitely radicalized me. And then I would go to Sunday school every week in the masjid, and I think just like hearing the ways Islam was taught to me definitely radicalized me.
So what's next for you, do you think?
Thinking Virgin Island, the sequel. I don't know, right now I'm kind of going back to my content roots and doing the creative stuff more, because as fun as the debate stuff is, it's also like I'm playing defense to other people's opinions. Like, it's more like, I think OnlyFans is ruining society, I think all these things, and I'm like, no, it's not. And as fun as OnlyFans is, and as much as I said, I like the controversy surrounding it, like, you know, I feel like I have more to say outside of just defending porn and stuff. So I've just been going back to my YouTube recently and just doing more commentary, more creative projects, and then eventually I'd love to like get into like screenwriting and like write a little show or something.
Well, that's all we have time for. So thanks, Farha. That was great.
Thanks for having me.